The night of November 11 to 12, 1833 saw a series of meteors streaking through the night sky. This attracted the attention and interest of many people who knelt and prayed or went to churches believing that the Day of Judgment was near. On November 12 and 13, 1833, Agnes Clerk, an early Victorian astronomy writer, saw a storm of falling stars break out over the Earth. The sky was lit up in every direction by shining tracks and majestic fireballs. In Boston, meteorites were estimated to fall at about half the rate of snowflakes in a typical snowstorm. The number of meteors was so great that it was difficult to count them, but as the storm subsided, Clark attempted to count them and, based on the much reduced rate, estimated that 240,000 meteorites must have been seen during the 9 hours in which they fell. Like the New Madrid earthquake in 1811, the event was so far removed from the accepted scientific understanding that many believed it to be the final day of the end of the world. John W. Allen's book Legends and Lore of Southern Illinois records the event. An interesting story is brought to mind by a broken grave marker in an unprotected cemetery located on a farm between the site of Jordan's Brothers Fort or Blockhouse, about 3 miles south and 1 east of Thompsonville, and historic Bethel Church. This burying ground, perhaps the oldest one in Franklin County, has long been deserted and there is no indication that a burial has been made there within a lifetime. Only one marker that memorializes a soldier who served in one of the earlier wars is left standing. Many are broken and hogs have rooted the pieces about, some have gone into the branch that flows beside the plot. One of the fallen and broken stones carries the inscription, Z. Mitchell, died November 13, 1833. Zadoc, for that was his first name, was an early settler in the vicinity. So far as records and traditions indicate, he was a substantial and exemplary citizen leading a rather quiet and uneventful life. He would doubtless be entirely forgotten had not the time of his death coincided with a most spectacular show of meteorites that came on the night he lay a corpse. No one knew that literally hundreds of falling stars would appear. They understood little of the principles involved, but it was an awe-inspiring sight. The loneliness of the thinly settled Illinois country, the natural grief at the loss of an esteemed neighbor, and the general air of solemnity coupled with the dead helped to make the meteoric shower even more impressive in Franklin County. Neighbors going to pay their respects to the deceased man or to set up with the corpse on that November night in 1833, were greatly impressed with the fiery flashes and traces left by the speeding meteorites. The night that Zadoc Mitchell lay a corpse and the night the stars fell thus became inseparably connected. For many years after his death, one had only to mention the name of Zadoc Mitchell and the response would be, he lay a corpse the night the stars fell. If allusion was made to the meteoric shower, the response would be, that was the night Zadoc Mitchell lay a corpse. They were much like the method used to designate time in the South in relation to the Civil War, when the expressions before de war and after de war were commonly used to date events. All of our ancestors living somewhere in North America east of the Rocky Mountains at the time were acutely aware of and affected by this event. It's unclear what effect this had on them, but all in all, I'm sure it must have scared them, and at least I'm sure they didn't forget it in a hurry. The Leonids are famous because their meteor showers or storms can be some of the most spectacular. Due to the extraordinary storm of 1833 and recent developments in scientific thinking of the time, the Leonids had a great influence on the development of scientific research on meteors, which had previously been thought to be atmospheric phenomena. The meteor storm of 1833 was truly terrifying. One estimate was more than 100,000 meteors per hour, but another estimate, made once the storm had dissipated, estimated more than 200,000 meteors per hour across the entire area east of the northern Rockies. America. It was marked by Native Americans, abolitionists like Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass and others. Near Independence, Missouri, this was seen as a sign of pushing the growing Mormon community out of the area. The founder and first leader of Mormonism, Joseph Smith, recorded in his diary that this event was a literal fulfillment of the Lord's words and a sure sign that the coming of the Messiah was coming. Christ is near. Denison Olmsted explains this event most accurately. After spending the last weeks of 1833 gathering information, he presented his findings in January 1834 in the American Journal of Arts and Sciences, published in January-April 1834. 1834 and January 1836. He noted that the shower was short-lived and had never before been seen in Europe, and the meteors radiated from a point in the constellation Leo, and he suggested that the meteors came from a cloud of particles in space. Reports of the Leonids maneuvers in 1866 amounted to hundreds per minute/several thousand per hour in Europe. The Leonids were observed again in 1867, when moonlight slowed to 1,000 per hour. Another strong appearance of the Leonids in 1868 reached an intensity of 1,000 per hour in dark skies. It was in 1866–67 that information on Comet Tempel-Tuttle was gathered, pointing it out as the source of the meteor shower. When the storms failed to return in 1899, it was generally thought that the dust had moved on and storms were a thing of the past. The Leonids is a prolific meteor shower associated with the comet Tempel-Tuttle. The Leonids get their name from the location of their radiant in the constellation Leo. The meteors appear to radiate from that point in the sky. They peak in November. Earth travels through a meteorite stream of particles left behind by a passing comet. This stream consists of solid particles, called meteorites, that are ejected by the comet as its frozen gas evaporates in the heat of the sun when it is close enough, often closer than Jupiter's orbit. Leonids are fast currents that meet Earth's path and impact at a speed of 72 kilometers per second. The larger Leonids, about 10 millimeters in diameter, have a mass of half a gram and are known to produce bright meteors, apparent magnitude -1.5.